So if you point fingers, remember that the one finger you point, 3 are pointing it.
Uganda Parliament. Over the next few decades, the technological advancement will revolutionize the efficiency of production, but it can't come soon enough. By the year 2050, the human population will be nearly 10 billion. That means we will need to double or triple the amount of food that we are producing right now to match up the population. 100 years ago, farming looked like this. And today, it just looks like this. But tomorrow it will be like this. This is an examination by me, Maktunu, that will get us down the pipeline. These changes has allowed most of us to do other things with our life outside farming, but while also farming. For example, in the United States, in 1900, only 14% of the total population used to produce food for the rest of the population. But today, roughly only 2% produce food for the rest of the Americans. Two factors were most responsible for the surge in productivity: engines and the widespread availability of the electricity grids of high voltages. Today, the innovations on our immediate horizon includes autonomous pickers, which are flying, and some are electric, which can pick the fruits, for example strawberries and oranges, without causing any economic wastage or financial damages onto the fruits, as you can watch in this video. Robotic weed killers, which can shoot the weeds with 90% less chemicals. It uses solar energy, which is renewable, and a lot more you can watch and read on the screen, quite more technical and precise, and saves human energy for other purpose or other work, like you can do other businesses. I think this is quite amazing. I don't know when it will come in northern Uganda specifically, or we will have to make ours. Another one is the weed killers, which uses laser to inject the weeds with laser lights that are high voltage. I think this is quite good for organic farmers. Another one is the robotic soil sampler, which takes the soil samples and it helps to analyze the soil pH, the soil structure, the soil profile, the water retention capacity, color, and even the temperature and the rest, infiltration, to mention but a few, and transmits it to the smartphone or any other electronic programming gadgets like computers in a very good software, which eases quite more work, so you don't need to take it manually. Oh wow, completely autonomous farm where heavy work from planting, weeding, spacing, plant population, and the rest, even harvesting, is done by robots. These are the kind of future that may come soon or later, but it is already in existence under the sunshine. Drone assisted crop monitoring technology, where drones are sent up and they transmit data into the computers or smartphones, which are later on analyzed into a complex program that can deliver results of exactly what is on the farm. CubeSats, or mini satellites, which takes the entire images of the farm. There is also big data analytics, where data is collected from very many farmers. Human survival analyzed by experts on Earth has then forced us to change things around us. In other words, experts, it has made us to practice dominion over nature, as the Bible states. From such as climate change becomes really dire, the future agricultural extension or the future of food security becomes a big problem and very uncertain. That even with the deployment of Many robots and heavy machines will not solve, I repeat, it would unlikely solve the problems that we have created in the past. But where man-made machines may fall short, bacterial machines will definitely prevail. This brings me to a technology called genetic modification that you and other people may hate it, may not like it, and many have protested against it. Scientific breakthroughs like CRISPR, genome selection, and SNPs now allows single letter with a gene to be precisely edited, unlike older methods of genetic modification like transgenic modification. This factor is critical for environmental adaptation, winning natural selection, and untimely evolution in the environment.
Protests were held in dozens of cities around the world today against agriculture giant Monsanto and its genetically modified organisms. Activists say the company has too much influence on the global food supply, and they're calling for change, including here in Canada. Natalie Collada reports.
You're so proud of it! Why not label it?
Hundreds of people in Toronto joined an international chorus of voices today against the production of genetically modified crops and the company that produces them.
Just say no to Monsanto!
Genetically modified foods are grown from seeds designed to yield plants more resistant to drought, bugs, and other hazards. Health Canada does not require companies to indicate that a food contains GMOs.
And people want the right to decide what they put in their bodies. Without labeling, we don't know what we're eating.
Charles Pick is an expert in molecular genetics. He says with the world's population rising, GMOs are necessary.
We will not be able to feed all of those people at the current production levels that we have. And so we need to utilize science, sound, well-tested science, to increase our agricultural production to meet that demand.
Still, some companies are choosing to avoid them, hoping to appeal to worried customers. This year, Chipotle became the first major restaurant chain to say they'll only serve GMO-free foods, and ice cream company Ben & Jerry's is actively supporting calls for labeling GMO products.
Ultimately, consumers are going to find out what you're putting in your food. They're going to find out what
highly precise techniques like
CRISPR
should ease legitimate health in the foods which are produced using GMO. Though several people are against it, even here in our country. One of the Professor Gamuz Latigo was advocating, but the parliament went against this.
So if you point fingers, remember that the one finger you point, three are pointing at you.
During a heated deliberation between members of parliament and civil society over the National Genetic Engineering Regulatory Bill 2018, tempers flared when Agago North County legislator Professor Ogenga Latigo backed genetically modified organisms.
Until anybody can produce for you a single evidence that something that was produced through genetic engineering is harmful. Single evidence. Take any urge with a pinch of salt.
Legislators denounced his support for what they deem risks the product's pose.
As Ugandans, we have been a dumping ground for so many things. When you look at our markets, you know what is happening. We should not allow again these GMOs to be dumped in Uganda.
So what do you want as Ugandans? Do you want to produce things that are not liked outside, that we can never export, that we can never even consume ourselves?
This pushing Uganda into fear is dangerous. But like I said, I don't care anymore.
Doctor says he doesn't care anymore. I don't mind also because his age and the rest of it. But what about a smaller generation?
I'm looking at a very radical move that we need to mobilize ourselves and make sure that we have a walk out of parliament in the event that things do not work well. We can have a section of MPs who will walk out of parliament. It is another pressure in itself.
Led by Nsaba Batoro, MPs plot a move to block the bill.
We shall be speaking on behalf of the nation, and those who are not going to do so, that is their business. On Monday, expect our statement, which clearly will be driving for total ban.
Now, Boboto, those are areas in Kenya. The fertility rate of women has reduced. Because those people believe the GMO cassava has affected them. And it has caused a problem that Kenyan men are now running to disorganized homes in Uganda.
GMO is like debating whether someone can take poison to kill him or her or not. GMO is totally dangerous and I don't support it.
Me, if we are doing this law to deter genetic engineering, I will support. But if it is going to encourage that, I will not support.
Members of parliament contend that the option for GMOs is inevitable.
But not everybody is sitting on the sideline. Several companies, including DuPont and Syngenta, have developed two large corns which are drought tolerant and they can resist harsh climate. That is Optimum and Aquamax. These drought-resistant corns can survive the test of time, like weeds, dryness, and even attack from pests. Oh my God! There is the next gen cassava project, which is intended to be taken all over Africa to breed and improve the cassava breeds which have been made across the Africa, so that their sizes can be bigger and more nutritious.
Breeding cassava to come up with a new variety that is tailored toward a specific need can take about 8 years. And during these 8 years, we are trying to identify what variety can withstand the harsh condition in the environment, a variety that is stable in terms of production, and a variety that will meet specific needs. Now, the 8 years is a long time. So any investment done in reducing that amount of time would be very important.
Well, the first thing is that cassava is clonally propagated. That means you take stem pieces of the mature cassava plant and you plant it for the next generation. So farmers plant the same thing year after year after year. But to do breeding, you have to go through botanical seed. You actually have to use flowers to make pollinations to produce seeds where you have new variation to select new varieties. The next thing is that cassava multiplication rate is low, and that means that to go from one individual plant that comes from a botanical seed to produce a variety, you have to multiply it by stem cuttings in order to be able to evaluate it and for first of all to select your new varieties, but then to evaluate it with farmers and eventually to release it in terms of seeds. So its multiplication process is very slow. So the cassava breeding cycle in general is very slow and slower than most of the other seed crops. So it's advantageous for us to want to speed that process.
If you're going to do breeding, you need seed. As people who grow cassava, we rarely see the seed of cassava, but the breeders want to get seed, so that's why they are doing the flowering research. They want to increase the number of seed they are getting, and if they get enough seed, then that will help them to be able to have a lot of segregation and have a variety of lines to select from. So to us, it's very important to increase flowering, and we need it to have more varieties coming out.
The most important component of the whole project is to test genomic selection, which is a process of using DNA markers and relating them to the characteristics of the agricultural characteristics of the plants, and then being able to select based on the DNA characteristics of seedlings. And that allows us to make predictions about the performance of new varieties without having to grow them for many years in the field.
Cassava takes more than 1 year to get the fruit. If they can do genomic selection, they can shorten the period before you determine whether the trait you're interested in is in the crop or not. So that's why we do both the flowering and the genomic selection.
Vertical farms are essentially warehouses which are used for growing crops in hydroponics. High-density vertical farming, where use of artificial lights that allows crops to grow day and night, producing a significantly higher yield per square foot than outdoor farms for now, through only leafy greens like cabbages and herbs, have proven profitable in the vertical system. Research is still going on whether this is truly an environmentally friendly technique. One possible solution which has been discovered is to use blue and red light wavelengths so that it can grow day and night. This is technically referred to as optical growing wavelengths. Things like Open Agricultural Initiative or the Climate Replication System is an attempt to solve food miles issues where trucks and ships carry food across continents or across the world long distance, and food ends up being eaten in a way which is not natural. The many millions of people entering middle income class every year are demanding tens and pounds of meat from Agagu to Kampala, from New York to London. But agricultural scientists are not sleeping. People have come up with livestock activity monitors like breath analysis, automated thermal imaging analysis using cameras, 3D cameras which can measure the weight of the animal, audio health monitoring system, automated behavior analysis, which is very helpful in monitoring of the chicken or poultry, where you can detect whether the temperature is comfortable for the animal using computer softwares. This is being done hand in hand with manual record keeping so that physical, human or manual made activity can be compared with the computer analytics so that a perfect result can be derived. Scove has proven to be one of the best company leading in this game, and they are the leading marketers of combi tunnels where air conditions, the temperature, the humidity, everything in the tunnel is controlled by computer. This can solve the issue of climate change because the system can be fitted even in the desert where there is no water, but still it can run and nothing is a problem. Everything is controlled using computer. This means we have enough time for leisure. You can go and watch your football, dance, disco, and the rest. All this data can be transmitted online so that farmers can access the free extensions Farm Online. Wow. I think it's my moment also to tell you to subscribe as I relax. This was the time when I was in good Uganda country there. Up next, fish farming. Consumption of farmed fish is highly increasing in developed countries, although low developed countries or developing countries like my beloved Uganda still lags behind. Artificial ecosystem for saltwater fish farms or inland saltwater fish farms are playing a great role in solving the depletion of good species like whales in the saltwater like seas and oceans. Fish powder made from the body of bacteria, some are GMOs, some are non-GMOs. As a wind up, last but not least, alternative protein sources. First and foremost, cultured meat or the lab-grown meat, where bodies of bacteria using synthetic technology,
and slaughter it to get the muscle.
Tissue is cultured and meat is formed.
We can take cells from an animal and then grow them without the animal itself. The only way for me to make sure that they eat the same type of diet that I did, the same chicken schnitzel that my mother used to make, is to make sure we fundamentally change the way we make food around the globe. Culture meat starts with a simple process of taking cells from animals. We obtain the cells, we immortalize them, essentially allow them to start growing forever in a nutrient program. From that bioreactor, you get the mass of muscle cells and fat cells that give you the experience of meat without slaughtering an animal, without causing the harm. We can produce meat that is as delicious and as healthy, even better, than traditional meat.
We really need to fundamentally change the way we manage our natural resources and we produce our food on Earth in order to make sure that we can continue and thrive as a species on Earth.
We are mimicking the natural process happening within the cow, but outside of the cow. We learned how the tissues regenerate themselves, especially the muscle tissue, which is actually the steak that we all like and eat.
One key benefit of cultivated meat is that being meat, it incorporates all the good nutritional profile of the meat we know today. We just change the production process.
And we have the flexibility to create whichever meat cut that we would like to have. This procedure is much safer, ethical, reproducible, and have a lot of advantages, and the taste is very good, the same as conventional meat. Israel is leading in the technology of cells, especially stem cells, for many years, coming from the therapy and, of course, leading with food.
Cultivated meat has the capability of providing secure and unconditional access to high-quality nutrition for anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Very soon, farmers and producers all around the world would understand that if they use our technology, they can produce the same meat for a fraction of the cost, much faster and much more efficiently than ever before.
That is it, guys. Another alternative protein source is the insects like grasshoppers. Yes, it may sound so ridiculous to you, but it is the future of food. In the future, several people will accept. In some other countries, some people are already eating it.
Cameroon, traders are selling some of the region's most prized delicacies. Depending on the season, grasshoppers, termites, or in this case, larvae of the palm weevil beetle line the stalls.
Moi, je mange les insectes, c'est trop nourrissant. Donc, ça nourrit le corps et ça n'a pas de graisse et ça ne nuit pas au corps. C'est un truc que si un être humain mange ça tout le temps, peu rare qu'il aura des maladies.
Insects make a positive contribution to diets here, as they are packed with protein, vitamins, fiber, and minerals. And it's not only their contribution to local diet that's important, they're also providing earning opportunities. Here, in the forest surrounding the village of Jeng, it's the grasshopper season. Philomen Enama is collecting grasshoppers, along with other women from the village. Some of them she cooks to feed her family of 7. The rest she takes to market for sale.
Je vois que les insectes sont bons parce que quand on n'a pas encore eu les produits des champs, ça va nous aider à vivre. Comme ça, on prépare, on mange. L'autre, on peut vendre. Donc ça nous aide vraiment, les insectes.
In the height of the season, one woman may collect 4 water bottles full of grasshoppers, which she will sell for the equivalent of €15 in one day. The role of women in collecting insects is very important, since in many parts of the world, women are responsible for ensuring that there is food on the table to feed the family. Until recently, insects were considered an inexhaustible resource. However, human population growth has led to over-harvesting of certain species. While forest fires and habitat degradation due to unsustainable logging has brought some species to the brink of extinction.
The rearing and domestication of insects can help the conservation of wild insect populations while simultaneously contributing to livelihoods and food security. Insects have a huge potential for both feed and food. We're already seeing developments in terms of using insects as animal feed and also being incorporated onto menus and into processed foods. While we won't be seeing insects on the table of a Sunday lunch anytime within the next decade, we know that insects have a huge potential, and we hope that slowly but surely this can be realized.
Population growth, urbanization, and the growing middle class are all contributing to a growing global demand for protein. Insects contain high levels of essential nutrients and vitamins, as well as high protein content comparable to meat products. It's hoped that insects will be considered a viable supplement to human diets, not only here in Central Africa, but in many other parts of the world.
Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I remain Maktunu Brian, your agriculturalist. Stay tuned for my next video, which I will tackle specifically GMO, genetically modified organisms. Be blessed. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.